Hello, how y'all doing? It's your coach Big Buck here with W.A.B.Sports-Talk with my co-host Mr. Tim Ray, and we have a great special guest tonight. Is a good friend of mine from Clemson University, Mr. Coach Davis. How you doing, Coach Davis?
I'm doing great, Buck. I hope you
Can you
and
hear
Tim
me?
are doing as well.
We're doing good. Sunshine down here. I'm down here in Belleville, Tennessee. Got a good little sunshine down here today. So had some snow yesterday, but woke up today it was gone and everything. Tim, how things going in Clemson land?
Well, it's 60 degrees and sunny right now. It's still bright and sunny. And if Coach Davis was with me, we could probably get in about 3 holes right now before it got too dark. But I guess we're not going to do that. We're going to talk a little sports and go down memory lane with Coach Davis.
I'm most definitely that. Coach, hey, Coach Davis, how you doing, brother? You've been doing good.
I'm trying to
I don't know.
avoid
I
this
feel like I
COVID,
got to
but
tell me about the COVID, man. It's been a crazy time. Hopefully, it's gonna get better on us and everything. Uh, we dealing with it. I'm glad we got through. Did y'all get a chance to watch the Super Bowl this past weekend?
I did.
did.
I watched it from Phoenix, which was great, man. It was on 2 hours early than most times for me. I worked the tournament in a golf tournament in Phoenix on NBC, and we got off the air at 4 o'clock local, and then I got back to the hotel and turned it on and watched it from there. And it was, I won't say it was that surprising because Tom Brady has so much experience in games of that magnitude. But obviously, Kansas City won the thing the year before. I think, but Mahomes missing those 2 offensive linemen really hurt. It seemed like he was running around like Deshaun Watson had to most of the season, throwing passes off balance. But you got to give it to Brady. Just amazing the way that team came back. We're only about 5 or 6 weeks removed from they lost a game 38-3 to New Orleans. So you got to really do everything you can from a leadership standpoint to keep a team together after a loss like that. But he certainly did and went on an incredible run. People forget, or the ironic thing about it is they're probably one of the few teams that won their 3 playoff games on the road and then became the first team to play a home game in the Super Bowl.
Right. That was at home down there. That's wild. But yeah, I watched the game. I was trying to pull him for Brady. He set a record. He got 7 championships. Ain't nobody ever done that before. So I just wanted to see that really happen. And he did say he's coming back. So I was shocked about that, but he said he was coming back, Coach Davis.
well, I was pulling for the Chiefs because they had 3 Clemson players on their roster, but Tampa Bay had Bradley Pinion, and more importantly, they had the poster child for old folks, and I kind of like Tom Brady.
Right. Well, it was good. Like I said, I had the opportunity to watch it, and I really enjoyed it and everything, Coach. Well, I want to get into you, Coach David. Like I said, we it seems that's so fun. I remember when you was here in Tennessee, and before I get to that part, we ended up in Clemson together. That's the story. But first, before we get into that, my first question to you is, I remember you being here in University of Tennessee at MTSU, and I want to ask you, as a young man, how did you get into coaching?
Well, I knew when I was in the 7th grade, Buck, that I wanted to be a coach, and because the 2 of the most respected people in our little community, our little town, was my high school basketball coach and my high school football coach.
Right.
And they just had an influence on my life, and I knew when I was in the 7th grade I wanted to be a basketball coach. And I knew in order to do that, I'd have to get a degree. I'd have to go to college and get a degree. And I'm the 10th of 12 children, and I was the first one to go to college, to be able to go to college. And my mom and dad made sacrifices like you wouldn't believe so that I could go to college and get a degree. And started out coaching junior high school right there in our little hometown of Inglewood, Tennessee. And might be two of the best years of my coaching career, to be honest with you. Those kids at that age, and you work with students, with young student athletes at that age, Buck. So those kids will run through the wall for you. They're just it's the most formidable years of their life. And I was fortunate to have some wonderful young men and women. I coached boys and girls and football in junior high school there.
Right.
Then I went to Madisonville High School. I coached boys basketball there for 2 years. Then to Charleston High School, which was the smallest school in the state of Tennessee that had a football team. And so I was there for 7 years. Then went back to McMinn County High School, which was a large school, and coached for 1 year. Then Coach Andy Landers left Roane State Community College, where he was coaching, and went to the University of Georgia. And I can't say take his place, but we did get the job when he left and went to Georgia, and was there for 6 years.
Right. So you end up going into, so your first college career was at MTSU.
Well, the 6 years at Roane State, and then at Roane State Community College, where we won a national championship in 1984. And then I was an assistant at the University of Florida for 14 months. And then Coach Jimmy Earle at Middle Tennessee State was the AD, and he gave me the opportunity to become a Division I head coach at Middle Tennessee.
And what year was that, Coach?
That would have been 1986, 87.
1986. I was in the 5th grade, 6th grade.
No, you're older than that.
Okay, Buck.
Oh,
You were a freshman in
86, 87?
in 89, 90.
Oh, so I was
89, 90, you were a freshman at Clemson.
Right.
So you were going into your high school career, I guess.
I was going in my high school career.
He was shattering backboards in high school, Coach Davis. So,
hey, Coach, it's been so long ago.
I know. Tell me about it.
So Coach Davis, tell Buck about the elaborate negotiations that went on that involving you coming from Middle Tennessee to Clemson, and how you were by far the number one choice for Dwight Rainey.
Oh, well, Dwight Rainey was a search committee of one. Mr. Bobby Robinson was the director of athletics, and he put a lot of faith and trust in Dwight, his associate athletic director. But Dwight, he had tried to hire Coach Andy Landers away from the University of Georgia as his first interview. And of course, Andy says that Clemson was too far from the mall, so his wife would not move to Clemson. So anyway, he wound up interviewing 11 people. He interviewed the head coach at the University of Mississippi, Van Chancellor. He interviewed Phil Lee, who was the head coach at Vanderbilt. He interviewed Carol Higginbottom, who I had worked for, was the head coach at the University of Florida. He interviewed Holly Warlick, who was an assistant at Tennessee at that time. Anyway, Dwight just didn't feel like, well, he called Andy Landers. Andy and I were at the Women's Final Four in Austin, Texas.
You got to tell this part of the story.
Okay, yeah. We were at the Women's Final Four in Austin, Texas, and we were in the room getting ready to go to the semifinal game or whatever. And I don't know how Dwight found out what hotel we were staying in, but he calls Andy Landers. They had developed a really good relationship, and he'd call and bounce people's names off of Coach Landers. But anyway, Dwight calls the room, and Andy answers. And Dwight says, "Andy, what am I going to do?" He said, "I've interviewed 11 people, and they just don't seem like they're the right fit for Clemson, or they turned me down or whatever." And Andy said, "What am I going to do?" And Andy said, "Well, I told you what you should do from the get-go." He said, "What's that?" And he said, "You should hire Jim Davis." And he said, "How can I get in touch with him?" And he said, "Here, hold on a second." He handed me the phone.
Wow.
So, you know, they say being in the right place at the right time.
Oh,
But I
most
told
definitely.
Dwight asked me if I'd come in the interview, and I said, "No, I am not. I can't leave Middle Tennessee." I said, "They just hired me 5 months ago, and I said I can't do these people that way." And I said, I can't come. He said, "Just come and talk to us." I said, "I can't." He said, "Well, I know your AD, Jimmy Earl, very well." I said, "Do you mind if I call him?" I said, "You can call him if you want to, but I'm not coming." And anyway, when I got back from the Final Four, Coach Earl called me down to his office. And he said, "Jim, I do not want you to leave, but you owe it to yourself and your family to go talk to them. Now, you got to appreciate an athletic director that cares about you enough to know that you got a chance to better your life and better your career." But anyway, I came and interviewed. Do you want me to go through the interview part, Tim?
Yeah, that's an interesting story.
Anyway, Sammy Blackman picked me up at the airport, brought me back. I went straight to Dwight Rainey's office for the interview, and we sat down and talked. And Dwight said, "Listen, my background is in business." He said, "I like to get the money part out of the way first." You got to know Dwight now. He said, "What do you think you ought to make?" I said, "Well, golly, I don't know." He knew what I was making at Middle Tennessee, and it wasn't a whole lot. He said, "What about $40,000? And I said, "Well, that sounds good to me." He said, "Well, do you think you need a car?" I said, "That would be really nice." So he said, "You got it." He said, "How many assistants you need?" And I said, "Well, everybody's got 2 assistants and a GA. He says, "You got it." He says, "Do you think they need cars?" I said, "They're going to be on the road recruiting like crazy. They got to have cars." He said, "You got it." He went on down the line, and anyway, I just couldn't say no. It was the hardest thing. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in the profession is go back and tell Coach Earl that I was going to Clemson.
Because you had a real good season that one year. I think you were 19-8.
21-7.
Kind of turned them around.
Yeah, 21-7 that first year.
Then you turned Clemson around.
I always give that team a lot of credit because they had Coach Annie Tribble, who was a wonderful basketball coach, but she was a better person, and she was like a mother to them. Well, I was about as far from a mother as you could get, ranting and raving, and so I always give that group Louise Greenwood, Karen Ann Jenkins, Cheryl Nix, Susan Failing, who we brought out of retirement. She had been there for played the first couple of years and then set out a couple of years, and she was in her 5th year. She came in and she was a big difference maker.
She could pass.
She couldn't shoot one in the ocean if her toes were in the sand, but she led the league in assists and led the league in steals. She had long arms. She could scratch her knee without bending over. And she just did a great job at running the point for us, she and Renee Williams. And but anyway, and I'm sure Michelle Bryant, we brought her in from Emmanuel Junior College, and she was a big help to us. And we just had a great first year, made to the NCAA tournament the very first year.
Now, I want to go to the 89-90 season, a season Buck is very familiar with, and one of the most fun days I ever had at Clemson in regard to basketball and broadcasting is in the afternoon. We had a noon game in the NCAA tournament at the Hartford Civic Center against LaSalle. And Buck, you might remember, I think we were down 16 at the half, down by 19 in the second half. You remember that game, Buck, when we beat LaSalle?
Oh yeah, game. I remember that game. I can't forget that game.
Supposedly, Dale Davis gave a fire and brimstone speech at halftime. I wasn't in the locker room, but I heard about it. But then that night we went to Stores, and our women were playing UConn. So it was a perfect deal. You had both the men and the women playing in NCAA tournaments in Connecticut. and we beat UConn and Gino Auriemma, who was just kind of getting it going. I think he was still in his 4th or 5th year, but we won that game by 2 points. Still, I think it's just one of 3 home NCAA tournament games that Gino has lost. I know he's won 50 in a row. They've actually Louisville since then in 1993. But about that trip, Coach.
Well, I remember seeing the delegation. I believe you and Robert Ricketts and Coach Bobby Hussey came into the gym. I remember seeing y'all coming in there, and that was important to us because women's basketball mattered to you guys, and I know it was a great game. It was the opening. I believe it was the first season for Gamble Arena.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which was their home court at UConn on their campus. And Coach Auriemma, I actually texted with him last night after his win over South Carolina. And,
did you?
But Coach said they had grossly underbuilt. And they needed more seats because it was rocking that day. They were hanging from the rafters that night. But I don't remember much about the game itself, Tim. I just know it was a tremendous win. I don't remember who the leading scorers were, all that kind of stuff.
I remember Shandy Bryan. Shandy Bryan had a really good game.
Yeah. Shandy had a lot of good games for us.
Yeah, she had a lot of good games. She was a terrific player. But and then the next year, you had to play UConn again, and this was for a chance to go to the Final Four. People forget Clemson actually was 1 game away from the Final Four in 1990-91.
I do remember that game. It was played in the old Palestra in Philadelphia. And we played UConn for a trip to go to the Final Four. We lost by 3. We had a player named Jackie Farmer who was from Philadelphia. I'd recruited her, ironically, when I was an assistant at Florida. I visited with her. I visited in her home, made the home visit, visited with her mom and dad. And she was a wonderful young lady, except she made bad decisions. She didn't come to Florida. She went to Georgia Tech. And I'm so glad that she did, because she didn't particularly like Georgia Tech, and she went to Emmanuel Junior College and played for a good friend of mine, Mike Bonner, at Emmanuel Junior College. And then we were able to get her to come to Clemson. She was a great shot blocker. But they had a player named Carrie Bascom, UConn did, who was a really, really good player. And she was just a tough matchup for us. She could step outside and shoot the 3. She'd bring the ball down the floor against pressure. And she had a really good game that night, and we didn't contain her very well at all. But we lost by 3 points. So we were 4 points away from going to the Final Four, and that was Gino's very first trip to the Final Four. He's been a regular there since that point.
So let's talk about the pleasant part of that trip. In the game before that, you beat James Madison on a buzzer shot by Peggy Sells, of all people. And I say of all people because she was not a high scorer. She was the point guard who didn't much. Tell us about Peggy in that game.
Yeah, Peggy was a walk-on. With my first year at Clemson, she had played at Bearden High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, and from an athletic family. Her mom and dad were just wonderful people, and still, Dad passed away, but Mom's still living. But Peggy, they came and said, "Can she just walk on?" And I said, "We'd love to have her." So we had 3 full teams. We had 15 players on that team. We had the orange team, we had the purple team, and we had the green team. And Peggy was a proud member. She was the point guard on that green team. And it was great. But Peggy wound up starting. I guess that might have been Peggy's junior year. But she wound up starting 2 or 3 years for us. And obviously she wasn't the first option on that play against and I think we might have been tied. But we were holding for the last shot, and she penetrated, got down about I don't know, a step below inside free throw line extended. She looked for all the options and nothing was there. And she turned around and shot that basketball and banked it in and on the buzzer, and we won, and we were able to go on and play UConn in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I actually remember watching that game. I had a satellite dish, and that game was televised by Home Team Sports out of Virginia. And so I was able to watch it, had a few people over and watched it. And that was a very, very exciting game. And to get to the Elite Eight of the tournament, that was pretty special.
Right.
Buck, we still got you?
I think I'm back. Am I back?
You're back.
I can see you. Yeah, I can see and hear you.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, man. I had some difficulties. I don't know. It kind of freezes out, but I heard everything y'all was saying. I'm glad you kept going, my brother Tim.
No problem at all.
Appreciate that. So I know you was talking about went to the UConn game, right? Make sure I'm on track with you, Tim. Keep going.
2 UConn games. We talked about 2 UConn games.
The 2 UConn
games? The one we won in 89, 90. And then, I just thought about it, Buck. You're right. The irony of that. We won 2 games in Connecticut your freshman year in the NCAA tournament. And then we had to play UConn in New Jersey. And it was a hell of a game, but unfortunately we lost it on the famous Tate George shot. But we had a lot of connections with Connecticut that year.
Yeah. And you're from Connecticut too.
And I'm from Connecticut. Yeah, in fact, it was great for me. I didn't stay in a hotel with the team. I stayed at home with my parents because my parents' house was 15 minutes from the Hartford Civic Center and about 30 minutes to stores. So
how about that?
Yeah, just stay there. That happened for me twice in the NCAA baseball tournament in 1988. We played in New Britain, Connecticut, and so I was able to stay at home. Mark Packer and I did those games on the radio, if you can believe that, back in 1988. The Pac-Man, and that was the year that the NCAA baseball tournament experimented with playing a neutral site in New England. NCAA felt bad that they never got any NCAA baseball games up there. So they made us the #1 seed neutral site, and they put us at Beehive Stadium in New Britain. But unfortunately, they didn't do a lot of research about Beehive Field. So we get there, and the first day it's pouring down rain, and the game is all the games were canceled like a snap of the finger. We thought, what? How come? And so they've said that, Beehive Stadium's tarp is not available because there's too many holes in it because over the winter the rats had eaten holes in the tarp. So they didn't have a tarp available, so we couldn't play the games that day. We literally had to just wait till the field dried for us to play the tournament. To say the least, they've never gone back to Beehive Stadium for an NCAA tournament since.
Right. So Coach Davis, let me ask you this question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So after that 89 season and that 90 season, I know you went on. I know I graduated in 94. I wasn't there, so I want you and Tim to let me know. Y'all won the girls ACC championship 2 years. 2 years?
Twice.
2 years. Right.
You're right, Buck. Twice.
What years was that, Coach? And who did you have on your squad at that time at Clemson when y'all won because them the only 2 ACC championships that Clemson got, right?
Yeah.
Only 2 championships. Matter of fact, that the first year in 1996, on our championship rings, we put first basketball championship, meaning the first ACC championship in Clemson history. And so we had Laura Cottrell was on that team. Laura was actually the MVP of that tournament in 1996. We had to win, if I'm not mistaken, 3 straight nights or maybe 4 straight nights. I don't know. We were the 5th seed going in. But we won the tournament, and Laura was the MVP. We had players like Dory Kidd and Angie Salyer, and gosh, I wish you hadn't started, Buck, because I can't name them all. And anyway, help me, Tim.
All right, here was your starting lineup in '96. You had Dory Kidd, Laura Cottrell, Jackie Stimson, Stephanie Ridgway, and Angie Sawyer. And off the bench, you had Amy Guerin and Atora Umo, who, when they were seniors, were first-team All-ACC, and Jeanette Davis. So you had a pretty good squad.
Yeah, Jennifer and Jeanette actually they just lost their dad just a week or so ago. So our thoughts and prayers are with Jennifer and Jeanette, wonderful young ladies they were from Tennessee, and of course Amy Guerin and Atora Umo and Nikki Blassingame and Natasha Anderson. Oh,
yeah, they were common denominators on both of those championship teams.
They were on both ACC championship teams, and that was a good class. Nikki from right here in Seneca, South Carolina. So
let me ask you this. Let me ask this question, Coach. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me ask you this question. I know you had, I know in 89 and 90 or 93, 94, leading up to that championship, you had some great teams. Cause I remember I was there. I mean, I was a very good supporter of you at that time, back then. What was the difference between when you had, I'm just throwing some names out, when you had that, Jessica Barr, Shandy Bryant, them girls, leading up to that 96 when you won, what as a coach, what put you over the hump for that 96 year when y'all won the ACC championship? Because you had some great teams right there in 94 and 95 and and 93.
Yeah, consistency was a very important thing for our program. We just that was back before women's teams had a men's scout team to go against every day. So we went against each other, and they, iron sharpens iron. Well, they made each other better every day in practice. And our second group was, we averaged 9, 10, 11 players that would average double-figure minutes. So when somebody graduated, Buck, we'd have 2 or 3 to graduate. We'd have 2 or 3 more that were ready and stepped in there. And I think that had a whole lot to do with our consistency through the years. We were in the NCAA tournament, I don't know, the first 6 years we were there, and we went to the NCAA tournament 14 times out of 18, and then 2 times to the WNIT. So in 18 seasons, we went to postseason 16 times. And that consistency, I think, was because a lot of the teams had male scout teams, but we didn't. We tried to make our players better. We tried to develop our players every day in practice. That had a whole lot to do with it. You mentioned Jessica Barr. Ironically, just today, IPTAY sends out a feature on, since this is Black History Month, and Jessica was featured today on the release from, and she was a Kodak All-American, one of 10 Kodak All-Americans, and so from right here in Batesburg. Now, we got her on the rebound. She signed with Coach Landers at the University of Georgia, played there for 2 years, didn't like him. I don't either. But no, I'm just kidding. But she transferred to Clemson, and she just blossomed. Now, there was an issue her senior year when she was Kodak All-American. Because she transferred, she had to do her student teaching. So our practice time was 5 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
The other players weren't too happy with that. But Jessica was one of the most competitive people I've ever been around in my life. she went at it every day in practice. I mean, I would have to make her apologize to a teammate after every practice because of how hard she played and how hard she boxed out and how hard she defended and how hard she hit people. She was just a physical player, and but I don't think I've had another player that was as competitive as Jessica Barr was. And of course, she was very skilled and very talented as well. So,
Right.
And she averaged
Well,
20 points a game.
You say again, Tim?
She averaged 20 points a game in 93, 94, and I think that was the highest scoring average by one of your players, Coach.
I believe it was too.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, you have Mr. John Clayton have a question for you down at the bottom of the screen. He says, what was the best moment of your time coaching at Clemson?
Oh, gosh, there's so many good times. One of the things that stands out, and Tim Bray just got through writing an article about Dana Puckett. She was from Kingston, Tennessee. But one of the best wins, 2 wins back-to-back that we had, we were playing in a tournament at Rutgers University. Teresa Grant's Hall of Fame coach was the coach at Rutgers. We were down by 17 points, I believe, at halftime, and they came out and made a 3-pointer. I forget that girl's name, Sue. Boy, she was an All-American and played many years in the WNBA. But can't remember her last name now. But she came out and made a 3-pointer. So we're down 20 points basically at the beginning of the second half, and we come back and win that game in overtime. So that was a huge memory, a good memory for me there. But also the game leading up to that was against the University of Texas, coached by Hall of Famer Jody Conrad, who was a wonderful person, wonderful coach. And I don't know, we were down, might have been tied up, I don't know, but we might have been down 2 something. I can't remember the exact score, but we had a little point guard named Dana Puckett, who was about 5'6", but she was tough as nails. And she was our point guard, inbounded the ball on the from the side there, sidebounds play. We ran our sidebounds play, didn't get open. They had the defender that was guarding the inbounder had backed up under the basket to keep us from getting a lob or something inside. So she was back under the basket, protecting the basket. So they inbounded it. Dana inbounded the ball, stepped right back in, and then drained a 3 to win the game on the buzzer. So that was 2 games right there back to back in that tournament at Rutgers that will always be stand out in my mind as one of my best memories.
Yeah, when I interviewed Dana about that play, she said she was supposed to throw the ball inside, and as you said, they defended. I guess it was Jessica, and she said, "Well, I looked around, there was nobody to pass it to, so I better shoot it because time was running out." So she was a very reluctant hero that day. And it's kind of fascinating, her story, that in what I wrote in the story about her, you know, she worked for me her 5th year, and I got her job. That was the year the Carolina Panthers were in Death Valley, and so I got her job working in the press box for Panthers games, and she met some people with the Panthers, and she ended up meeting her future husband, who was working for the Panthers then, and he now, of course, is the offensive coordinator for Lamar Jackson in the Ravens. Yeah, it's funny how things work out.
Yeah.
That's good, Coach.
John also said ask about Sue Bird there.
Oh, you said he asked about Sue Bird?
Yeah. You know, Sue is an analyst now on ESPN, but I don't remember playing against her in college. I don't know if our teams matched up when she was playing. But when I was an assistant with the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA, she was playing with the Seattle Storm, and she is a handful now. point guard that could score. She could distribute. She could do it all. She was a everything point guard.
So I didn't think any of those UConn women ever retired. They just keep on playing and playing.
You know what? She is going back again, I think.
I was going to say, I think she's still playing.
Yeah.
And Diana
Taurasi.
Yeah, she's still playing.
Yeah.
So I know we had to go back up there in about 2000 when Erin Bath was a senior, and they beat us up in UConn and in the NCAA tournament up there. I can't remember exactly who was on the team, but Sue Bird might have been playing back then.
Yep. You know, you mentioned Erin Bath. She and Nikki Blassingame are both assistant coaches with NC State right now, Coach Wes Moore. And he gives them a lot of credit, but really Wes Moore is a heck of a basketball coach. And but Erin and Nikki work together up there, and they're doing a great job. And we wish them well. After Clemson, we were going to pull for them, but we're pulling for Clemson first, aren't we?
Yeah, last year when NC State came to Clemson, I went by and saw Erin, and yeah, she's doing really well.
Yeah, and Erin Bath, Buck, I don't mean to offend you in any way, but Erin Bath, in my eyes, is the best post defender that I have ever seen in basketball, male or female. So she was tough as nails. She got hit in the mouth I don't know how many times with elbows. She just stuck her nose back in there and kept fronting that post and doing a great job. So I got to give Erin credit for that since we brought her up.
Yeah, I think they picked a defensive All-America team when she was a senior, and I think she made a defensive All-America team when she was playing. So Coach, what do you're doing the color commentary on the Tigers this year? What do you think of this year's Clemson team? They've had some good wins.
They've had some really good wins, and I think Coach is doing a great job. Coach Amanda Butler doing a tremendous job. She and her staff, and they're very well prepared for every game. I think they've let a couple slip through their fingers here of late. One at Georgia Tech, especially. Oh, and I can't remember where the other one was. But anyway, if they could have just held on to those, but if and buts for candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, wouldn't we? But they've got a chance. It depends on finishing strong now. They play really well at home, Tim, as you know. And they beat Syracuse, which is a signature win. They were ranked 23rd at the time when they beat Syracuse. And but they've got, I believe, 4 of their 5 last games are at home, and they really are tough to beat here in Littlejohn. And they've got great depth, quality depth. Delisha Washington's a young lady who is just a tremendous athlete, but she's not bad as a skilled player either. She does a really good job shooting off the bounce, anywhere from 12 to 16, 18 feet, but and she can step outside and shoot 3, but her forte is shooting off the bounce. And then they've got a freshman by the name of Gabby Elliott, who I think has got a very, very bright future. She can score as well, much like Washington.
She's very athletic, yeah.
She's very athletic, much like Washington, but she probably shoots a 3 better than Washington does. And then they've got Kendall Spray. You know, Kendall's she's the designated 3-point shooter, and she's one of the best in the country. And then their post players are post by committee. They've got about 4 or 5 post players that all come in and contribute. Tyler Bennett's an excellent shot blocker, and so Coach has just got them playing pretty well. They really take pride in their defense, much like our teams did. They'll take charges. Their bigs will take charges. And so they just I think they've got a chance.
Well, I hope they panned out well. We've been keeping up with them and the boys, and I know it's been a hectic year dealing with this COVID thing, Coach, and everything, and so we are most definitely right pulling for them and everything.
Yeah. My hat's
So
off to coaches everywhere, in every sport, and especially to the student athletes for just being able to get on the court. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline, tremendous amount of uh, determination, good decision making, in order to stay healthy and avoid. Our men's team was a good example. They had, I guess, a coach tested positive, and they missed what 10 days or something like that, Tim. And
Yeah.
I think they're back now to where they were before, but they were really playing at a high level before that, and then they,
right.
as well as I do, how important practice is.
Yeah, you gotta have practice. Gotta have
Well,
practice.
that's one thing that you cannot compare across programs, even looking at how long they were out. For instance, Georgia Tech, they missed about 4 games and they were out for 2 weeks, but 2 of the games wasn't because of them, it was because of their opponent. So they were
Right.
still practicing and getting something out of it. In our case, we didn't have Coach uh, Brownell and Cunder for like 8 days, and for 5 days they didn't practice at all. So you had the same amount of time they might have been stopped for COVID, but a total different situation in regard to amount of practice, which is,
Right.
one of the reasons why the first game back we lost by 35 points to Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
And we mentioned Syracuse a while ago. They were ranked 23rd in the country when we beat them. They had missed 28 days back in December and early January. So, it's just like starting over again, I guess. I'm glad
It
I'm
is.
not
It's going to
coaching
be
anymore.
fascinating. The thing I haven't heard much about is the degree to which the Atlantic Coast Conference wants to make up these games, and it's kind of tough because some teams need the games to try to get in the NCAA tournament, but it's apparent from what we saw in football that the NCAA is going to evaluate you based on what you played, and if you played a lot less than the other team, well, so what? We're just going to evaluate. Obviously, with Ohio State ended up playing 8 games, or we played 13, and just took that sample of what you were able to play. So, in Clemson's case, we've got a pretty good resume now. If we don't go to Syracuse and North Carolina and don't make up those games, I don't think it's going to break my heart. Because I
Right.
think we're going to have. I'll be blunt with you. I think we'll have a better chance against it getting in the NCAA tournament by not
Right.
playing those games.
Right.
Right. Cause then we beat North Carolina at home the other week, right?
Yes.
We beat North Carolina, we beat Syracuse, we beat Louisville, and we've got the best resume outside the league. We beat Maryland, we beat Purdue, we beat
Alabama.
Alabama. Alabama's ranked 10th in the country.
Yeah, they're the number one
And-
team in the
and-
SEC.
Yeah, and Mississippi State's not a bad win either. All those teams
Right.
have winning records and are doing well. So, we're the only team in the ACC that has 4 non-conference wins against Power 5 conference teams.
Who did we
Right.
beat in the Big Ten Challenge?
We beat we beat Purdue down in
Yeah.
but then we beat Maryland in the Big Ten Challenge.
Maryland. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. It was Maryland.
Yeah, Maryland.
Yeah. I think they're gonna. I think they both going. I think they're gonna get there, Tim. To be honest with you, because you can't really fault them for what they're a great team. Like you said, like even a lot of guys missed a lot of games, but they're back on track with these last 2-3 wins at home. You know what I'm saying? So that momentum should push them right into the tournament. Now, are they still going to do the ACC tournament?
Far as I know, Coach Davis, I don't know if you've heard anything contrary to that, but I do know there was a lot of talk in the ACC and nationally because of the fear of you go to the conference tournament and what if you catch COVID and you can't play in the NCAA tournament because you went to the ACC tournament. That's got to be, a fear. I mean, you're supposed to have 7 consecutive days of all negative tests on your team to go to the NCAA tournament?
I think if you test positive, then you have 14 days. But if it's a contact thing, I could be wrong, Tim. I don't know. You know better than I.
There's so many rules, and then some.
Yeah. I think if it's just a contact thing, maybe 7 days is all you have to.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
There's something about 7 days before you played in the tournament. So I don't know.
So it's going to be.
I think they ought to make men's and women's basketball teams a priority and move them to the front of the line so they can get their vaccine so we can enjoy basketball. No, I'm just kidding.
They're going to figure it out. It's going to be an NCAA tournament. Like we thought we weren't going to have a football, but I think sports actually really saved a lot of people's lives because I just couldn't really sit home all this whole year and didn't see nothing. So I commend all of them for what they did because think if we did not have no sports, that's a lot of free time. And, even with the NFL, I like what they did by trying to put, the little stickums in the stands. And I commend the guys to still go out there and play up to their best ability without that 12th man and without that 6th man, the fans. And even with the basketball, like, you got a few homes, but you got to realize if you at home, you got 20,000 or 7,000 people there yelling for you. You kind of got a little edge on the game. So I really think the 2020 and this season was a fantastic season to the point they did get through it. I know we're still doing the basketball girls, but it just I feel that it's going to work out. But I think they shouldn't do the ACC tournament. They shouldn't do the Big East tournament. I think they should just take the best team for the regular season and do the tournament, just like Tim said earlier. Don't take that chance. And I wouldn't fault a team like Clemson or a team that's had a great, because Clemson at one time was ranked number 1 in the ACC, had the best winning record in the ACC.
We were the highest ranked team in the AP poll. It was only the second time in history that was the case. The only other time was in 1996-97 season when we got to number 2 and had that big game here against Wake Forest. That's the only other time. Right. Buck, along the lines of what you were talking about, Buck and home and away, everybody kind of thought that, the home court advantage wouldn't be a big deal this year because you didn't have many fans. But if you're looking at going into last week, we had a run of 24 out of 28 games. The home team won. And I think looking down the road, I think a part of a home court advantage is the comfort of with you in your own gym, the consistency of the depth perception on shooting relative team. Buck, what do you think about that? Maybe is that kind of underestimated aspect of the home court advantage?
Well, I mean, when you are playing at home, you should shoot the ball well. Coach Davis, you know this. If we playing at home, we should shoot the ball well because we have practice there twice a day, every day. That's really your home court advantage by playing at home. That 6th man, the crowd, that's when you're down and you kind of lost yourself, and they pick you up and give you that energy because you're tired. But when you playing at home, you shouldn't lose no games at home. That's what they say. I remember back when we played to win the ACC, you win all your home games and win 3 games on the road, you win the ACC. So, but I know it's different now because there's more teams and it's bigger, but you never want to lose at home, right, Coach Davis?
That's exactly right. You got to protect the home court. And, another thing that you talk about the shooting on your home court, but, you're also in your everyday routine. You're eating your meals, the same meal. You're not eating catered meals and things of that nature. You're sleeping in your own bed. You get up at the same time. You don't have to worry about catching the bus and all this kind of stuff. And
Right.
so it's more of a comfort zone off the court. And then when you get on the court, obviously you ought to be shooting the basketball better on your home court. And the fans, that brings the emotional part of the game. And there is emotion in the game of basketball.
It's a game of runs.
That's true.
Because I mean, it was a lot of nights. I mean, when we played, tired. Somebody get a dunk or that them fans get loud. It's just like you forget about you tired.
Right.
Then another thing, Coach, you were saying, playing at home is repetition. Muscle memory. Like you saying, doing the same thing, and it's like coming to practice every day. So home court. I believe home court advantage is the point of just being at home because you do shoot better. Nobody come in your gym and shoot better percentage than you, but you do have some teams. That's your great teams. But like basketball, it's a 50-50 chance it's gonna go in, not gonna go in and come out. Any given day. What is called any given Sunday? Even given day. Hey, Coach Davis, I got a question for you. I know we've been talking sport. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Coach Davis.
Put it on me.
I'll put you on the spot. Who, out of your years of coaching from Middle Tennessee, Clemson, not the pro level, give me your top 5 ladies that play for you.
Oh gosh, Buck, that's hard.
Hey, start with your point guard. You gotta get one person, point guard, 2 guard, 3 guard, 4 guard. Who would you have in your top 5, your starting 5 out of all the years you played? Oh Lord, Coach Tim Bray, we don't put something on him now.
You're gonna get him in trouble.
Yeah, you are.
He's still close to all those players.
Hey, but it's not nothing bad. But just like they asked you, who's your best 5 in the NBA?
Well, Etora Umo, Amy Guerin, Shandy Bryan, Jessica Barr, Sharon Wells are all Hall of Famers.
How about Sharonda Wells? I forgot, boy, she was at 2 years.
She was a player.
She was quick.
Yes,
she was a player, quick as a hiccup, and nobody hated to lose any more than her. We lost her last game at Clemson. We lost in the NCAA tournament at West Virginia on the last second shot. She was in the locker room laying face down, crying her eyes out. I've never seen anybody as heartbroken over a game as Sharon was. She was a competitor. So anyway, if we got any more Hall of Famers, Tim, I don't want to leave anybody out. But anyway, those are all Hall of Famers that I can think of right now. But
yeah, you said Jessica, right?
I did say Jessica.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring anybody. We've had a lot of players that aren't in the Hall of Fame,
right?
That were outstanding players for us at Clemson. And of course, I didn't get to coach her, but Barbara Kennedy is the greatest that's ever been at Clemson, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And so we miss her. Tim and I have tried. I've tried for 15 years, I guess, to get her in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. She's the all-time leading scorer in ACC history, all-time leading rebounder in ACC history, and we can't get her in the Hall of Fame for some political reason. So,
wow.
So Buck, if you got any pull up there in Knoxville, I'll put you on the spot.
I'll make my phone call. But yeah, you brought up a name right there. Yeah, she was a fantastic. Like I said, she was before my time, but for what I remember, even when I was there, she was working. She was even off the court. She was a motivator. Great lady.
She's a
truly
Hall of
miss.
Famer on and off the court. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, she did so much
I,
for Tree to get Tree to come back and get his degree, and which he was a no-brainer to get in the Ring of Honor once he did that. So I'm so glad that that happened.
Yeah. She had a lot of influence on a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll tell you one quick story. My favorite Barbara Kennedy story. So her last home game was against North Carolina in February 1982. And so number 42. And in her last game, scored 42 points. And so we won the game. It was a big win towards getting in the NCAA tournament. And then, Barbara had a great singing voice. And so we had a double header. And so she sang the national anthem prior to the men's game. Now, this was the 1981-82 season. This is a North Carolina team that would go on to win the national championship. Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Sam Perkins. And so she goes out to half court and sings the national anthem. And after she sang the national anthem, Dean Smith left his bench, scorer's table, and personally met her and shook her hands to congratulate her. That's how respected she was.
Wow, that's
Have we got time for a Dean Smith story?
Sure.
Yeah, we got time.
We got 3 minutes until we come off the net.
We were, I don't remember where we were exactly, but we were on the Nike trip, and this was Dean Smith's. He was getting on up in age a little bit, and he began to develop a little dementia. And Roy Williams came up to me and said, of course, Roy Williams is a really good golfer, so he was playing with the real aces. And but he comes up to me and said, Tim said, I want you to do me a favor. He said, will you take Coach Smith out and play golf with him this afternoon? Says he struggles a little bit, but I said, are you kidding me? Me do you a favor? I said, I would be honored. Anyway, I got to play with Coach Smith, and he was just a gentleman and still a pretty good golfer even then. But that evening we were walking down for dinner down the sidewalk, and our phone rang. Coach Smith and his wife were right in front of us, and Bobby and I were behind, and my phone rang, and it was our son Todd. And Coach Smith asked Bobby, said, who is that? She said, that's our son. He says, hand me the phone. So he takes the phone and he talks to our son. I mean, here our son is talking to the legend.
Wow.
And he talks to him 4 or 5 minutes, just like he's known him all his life. But anyway, Dean Smith, I've got a lot of respect, had a lot of respect for that gentleman.
That's great. That's a great story.
So Tim, can you give us just give us the history of Coach Davis for us on here for a lot of people, what you have? I don't know if you got it pulled up or not. His accolades and everything here. I mean, because we want.
This is not going to take long.
First of all, he's a Clemson Hall of Famer. That is for sure. He's a Clemson Hall of Famer. In regard to all his former players and what he did for them and their preparation, I know a lot of them have gone on to very successful careers. I've written some stories about him in the Orange experience. But obviously our all-time winningest coach, as we talked about earlier, 14 NCAA tournaments, took us to the Elite Eight in 1990-91, and just had such a string of successful seasons. It's a run of success that I don't know that we'll see again. I hope so. But just was honored to work with him.
It was Coach David. It was an honor for me to meet you. I think I met you when I was in the 7th, 8th grade down at MTSU. Actually, Tim, I don't know if you know this, but Coach Davis recruited my sister to come to MTSU. You know what I'm saying? That little time he was there. that's how I got a chance to meet him before he ended up at Clemson. So when I rolled into Clemson, I'm like, what are you doing here? You gonna be all right. But
Did your sister end up playing for Middle? Did your sister play for Middle Tennessee? Okay,
yeah,
good.
Just because Coach Davis brought her in, he recruited her. So, and but like I said, I've been knowing Coach Davis for a long time, been part of the family for a long time, and I enjoy watching you coach. I enjoy your family, man, and everybody, and proud that you come on the show and spend some time with us tonight, and let me and Timber Ray pick your brain and pick at you and everything, and hope to see you this summer for our golf tournament in Clemson and everything.
He's not gonna miss any. He's not gonna miss any golf, Buck. So don't worry about
that. You got that right.
So,
thank you, Buck, for and Tim for having me with you today. It was a lot of fun.
Glad to have you, Coach.
Same here, Coach, and appreciate y'all out there in W.A.B. Sports Talk land, and we'll be coming back tomorrow at 5:00 Eastern. We have the first slam dunk champion in the world. He was the first one to win the dunk contest at Mr. Larry Nance and former Clemson Anderson Rays. So we'll have him on the show tomorrow night. So tune in for that. Me and Tim Murray will be picking his brain and talking with him too. So appreciate y'all tuning in.
We used to call him the helium head. We'll tell you why on the show tomorrow, why we called him helium head.
So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in with us, and we hope y'all enjoyed the show tonight. And thank y'all guys for being a part of this W.A.B. Sports Talk. Okay, signing off with our commercial.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Have seemingly disappeared. Coach Wayne Buckingham started W.A.B. Sports. His focus is on mentoring our younger generation and teaching valuable life skills that go way beyond the field of play. Whether it's football or basketball, he has a specialized sports camp designed to address the challenges the youth of today face daily. He believes it's all about teaching healthy habits now in order for those lessons to be applied to their future decisions. W.A.B. Sports raises the money for these camps with various charity golf tournaments yearly. W.A.B. Sports also offers scholarships so that these young men and women have a greater chance at success in their life after sports. Coach Wayne truly believes the best thing in life is making a positive difference. W.A.B. Sports depends solely on donation. If you feel led to donate, contact Coach Wayne Buckingham at WABSports4@gmail.com. That's WABSports4@gmail.com.